Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Marta Castillo, and well, to tell you a little bit about me, this year I have been working with elementary learners as well as teachers, high school and university level. So in that way, I felt the sense of talking about what my perceptions are of these different EFL settings that I have to collaborate with. That's why I have new eyes, which are now wide open to find out what's going on in these settings and how can we improve our inner learner as well. So I'm going to change my slide. And my presentation has three keywords: nature, tenure, and the nurture of EFL settings. So in order to find out about this nature, we need to go back to realize who we are. So that means that we need to go back to that humanism attitude in education, because this first word, nature, tackles the fact of an inner reflection in order to be ready for social interaction with our colleagues, with our learners, and with the other members of the educational settings. So in this sense, my presentation includes the perception of ontological coaching, which aims to make a change in the soul of a person by becoming a more powerful observer that is capable of being more self-generating as learners, and to meet the imperative of continually developing more flexible and effective modes of thinking, communicating. In other words, to be part of a self-analysis to find out who we are and how can we be better people and better human beings, and therefore better educators. This ontological coaching has a conceptual framework that goes back to metanoia and the Anisa model. And in the evolution, this perception relies on the presence and the trustworthy metrics, which are part of elements which are important education. And that's how this ontological coaching is really relevant in my presentation, because it goes back to the three domains, basic domains from a person: the language, part of listening and talking, how I listen, how I talk, what is my my posture and gestures when I talk to somebody. And then I also have included the emotions and moods, which are immersed in every social interaction. And then, of course, my body language, because my body speaks out of who I am. So in that way, when a person has these three domains connected, you're going to be more able to connect with the community that you are involved. The second keyword of my presentation is tenure. So how this tenure can help my inner learner. And one of the worst enemies for this connection of the three domains that I already explained is ego. But before I talk to that, so I need to ask the audience a question. So what's next after that tenure? And with this, I'm talking about in terms of personal development and professional development. So I have like three questions about who I am, what am I doing in this world, and finally, why is my contribution important in this community? So like I said before, when ego blocks my emotions, and in that way I cannot have my three domains in balance, there I can really have a problem with the person that then will therefore affect the relationship with the community. That's why Gail shows three ways to keep that ego moderated: seeking your objective, practicing in humility, and getting outdoors. So when the person moves, the emotions also move. So in that way, you can be more open to different perspectives and accept other people's perceptions and opinions. So why is it important of this? Because I'm talking now as a learner. So it doesn't matter the position you are, as long as you identify yourself as a human being that needs to always need to be learning, no matter your position in a class. Markell and MacArthur also present a quiz to find out the awareness of these different aspects of collaborative intelligence that we can grow, of course, if we have the willingness. And because this field of education, students or learners are requested to work in collaborative environments. But how prepared are we as educators to create and spread our own collaborative skills first? Because in these different EFL settings that I have been talking about, collaboration and friendship are vital to help teachers to move to a higher level of personal and professional development. Another of my favorite authors talks about being consistent, reliable, and unpredictable. So with this, we try to focus on being fair in the classroom. That remains to be, that is part of being consistent. Have a lively environment where learning and mistakes are welcome as part of that learning. That reliability, that is part of this trust factor, because we need to be those trust agents, change agents. So in that way, the more I move to a different perspective, the better environment I will create in my class. And finally, being unpredictable. If I've been teaching the same content for a long period of time, what is next? And I'm not talking about just the teaching and learning process. I'm talking about me as a person. What have I changed? Are my students the same? How can I improve myself in order to be ready for this generation of students? And moreover, what are my other colleagues, maybe my younger colleagues, learn from me? The final keyword that I consider is nature and learner, because this nature affects this learner's development through multiple channels. For instance, we need to be physically active. It doesn't mean that since I work in a university, I'm not allowed to maybe use total physical response in my, or being open socially through adult role models and peer relationships that are vital in education. And finally, but not less important, is being intellectually through informal experiences and formal instruction. Because no matter the level of instruction we teach, we need each other. And we need to, first of all, find that we need to learn from other colleagues, maybe the younger, maybe the older people around us, because otherwise we're going to be limited to our own perspectives. And in that way, being that social, that's why I also included in that in one of my presentations about building your professional profile. What do we share through social media, through our conferences? What do we share? Why is it important to share? After I finish a collaborative environment, what did I learn? So it is really important to nurture ourselves, and basically as human beings first. And as Rob mentioned before, this is my second EFLtalks one. I have the opportunity to talk about learning walks, which is a technique where we can observe the learners and ask those 6 questions that you have on the screen. So the focus is not on what the teacher is doing in the class. We're not going to evaluate the teacher. We're going to evaluate the learner and the stage of learning that is presented in the class. So we are able to have that trust factor in this technique. We're going to be able to improve the community. And finally, in our last research, in my last source, I see Ecuador, and one of the themes, the first theme discussed is that teachers are collaborators. That's why I have those bees surrounding the word collaborator, because in that way I want everybody to remind that this should be his name in education, otherwise we're going to be working in isolation.